Yes, you found the Sales Hunter podcast. I'm Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. Today's episode is very simply prospecting and avoiding the radio silent treatment. Oh, not so simple? Yeah, you're right. But it's something we've all dealt with. Let's hit the intro and get on with the show.
You're listening to the Sales Hunter podcast with Mark Hunter, where the focus is to help you as a salesman sell with confidence and integrity. And now here's your host.
You're wondering who's the guest I have on today. Well, the guest is me, but then again, I've always had multiple voices in my head. So, hey, I guess no, it's not. No, it's a good thing because I get to share with you today about 24 minutes worth of content of how do we avoid the radio silent treatment. Now, let's stop and be honest with ourselves. Come on. We have all had challenges with being ghosted, radio silent. You know the conversation. It's where you may have one initial phone call with somebody, and then you can't get them back on the line. They don't respond. They don't do anything for you. Or maybe it's the one that they don't even respond to begin with. So let's dig into this. Hey, here's something you got to keep in mind. If you can help them, you have an obligation to reach out to them. Now think about that for a moment. If you can help them, you have an obligation to reach out to them. What I find happening too many times is somebody goes radio silent and they automatically assume, well, the customer must not want to talk to me. They must not be interested. And so they're going to give up. I'm going to share with you right now a situation where I had a gentleman who would text me almost every 2 weeks. He would text me. He sold logo stuff on things. Okay. And every 2 weeks he would text me and I never responded. But you know what's interesting? He kept that up for probably a year and a half. Now, I wish he had used a little bit of a different strategy and brought me some value. His text messages were, well, when you're ready to buy, call me. But you know what's funny? About a year and a half later, we were ready to buy. And who did I do? I called him. You see, very simply, he stayed in the game. So don't ever think for a moment that the customer doesn't want to buy. Oh, but hey, let's put that aside for now. And let's really dig in. And why is radio silence such a big problem? One of the big problems I hear and I find all the time is that salespeople tell me, well, the customer said they're not really interested. Call me back in 6 months. Or, we got to take care of this and call me back in a few months. And I go, whoa. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of lazy river. Have you ever gone down a lazy river? You've been to a water park and you kind of float down a lazy river. And you know what's very interesting is you can't go any faster than the water's going. It just doesn't go any faster. And what happens is the water controls you. The water absolutely can. And this is what happens when the customer says, hey, you know what? I'll reach back out to you when we're ready to buy in 6 months. I'll follow up with you or wait for this to happen. You are on a lazy river with the customer and they control the process. Let me tell you something. Prospecting is not about the customer controlling the process. Prospecting is about you controlling the process. I can't stress this enough. You have to own the process. And the way you own the process is you bring value. Now, I know some of you are sitting there saying, yeah, but the customer said, don't call me. I'll call you when I'm ready to buy. Yes, I get it. So if I call them, I'm interrupting them. Hey, let's not kid ourselves. Anytime I call them, I'm interrupting them because I don't find too many people waking up in the morning and say, man, I really hope Mark Hunter calls me today. It just doesn't happen. You see, I'm interrupting them, but I'm interrupting them because I know I can help them. Now, here's what I find happens is that they don't want me to call them. They want to call me when they're ready to buy, which is really a smokescreen that they really have no interest. See, here's the problem. They don't know the degree to which I can help them. They don't know. They are basing their assumption that I can't help them off of maybe some preconceived notion, maybe something they saw online, maybe whatever it might be. They don't know the degree to which I can help them until they've had enough conversations with me. This is what happens with ghosting. Now, let me set the table here in terms of the 4 key factors. If you're listening to this as you're driving, don't write this down. If you're not driving, write these 4 key factors down, because I think it's the cornerstone of not only radio silent, but the cornerstone of prospecting. 1, does the customer know the outcome they're looking for? And do you even know what that outcome is? You see, here's the whole thing. If the customer doesn't know the outcome that they're looking for, why should they talk to you? 2, will my solution work for them? Think about that. Will my solution work for them? 3, is there urgency on their part? And 4, am I talking to the right person? Okay, those are the 4. Let me unpack those for just a little bit here. First of all, does the customer know the outcome they're looking for? See, too many times what happens is salespeople recommend a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. Hey, wow, you need this. And the customer's, I don't need this. See, until the customer understands the outcome that they're looking for, and I understand that as a salesperson, I don't even know if my solution will work for them. So I've got to understand. Don't sit there and throw a solution out. You don't go to a doctor, no more than sit down with the doctor and they start prescribing things to you before they've even had a chance to take a look at you. That'd be malpractice. That's what too many people prospecting do. They throw out a solution when they don't even know the problem. No wonder they get radio silence. 3, is there an urgency on their part? Now think about this. There's a lot of things that I need, but they're not urgent. A lot of things that I need, but they're not urgent. Right now in today's economy, more than ever, people are only dealing with their number 1 or number 2 priority. And if it's not up at the top of the food chain, they're not going with it. They're not going with it. So I have to understand, does the customer have urgency, or can I create urgency for them? Now I can create urgency for them. I can, if I understand enough about the outcome that they're looking for. I'm going to tie this back in here to this whole radio silence thing. Because when we master these 4, they're no longer radio silent. And the 4th one is, am I talking to the right person? Because many times what happens is they're really going radio silent on you because you're not the right person that they're talking to. Somebody calls me and I have an initial conversation, but I never call that person back because I'm not the right person. And you know what? It's not that big of a deal to me to try to find the person in the company who you should be talking to. See, so until I can get the answers to these 4 questions, we run the risk of having radio silence. In fact, chances are we will have radio silence until we have these 4 questions answered. Now, here's the premise with which these 4 are based on. And you got to ask yourself this question. What is the level of trust you and your company have with the prospect? Think about that for a moment. What's the level of trust? Because here's the whole thing. Companies may have an outcome that they're looking for. You may have the right solution. There may be urgency, and you may even be talking to the right person, but if they don't trust you, they're not going to call you back. Now, I don't put trust as one of the 4 factors because I believe that trust is the foundation. But see, early on in the prospecting phase, I'm all about creating trust with the customer. But now you understand, when I get to this, I'm now able to deal with radio silence. So how do I deal with radio silence? How do I get the person to engage with me? Here's how I get the person to engage with me. I got to rinse and repeat, and I keep it simple. Rinse and repeat, keep it simple. Write that down, unless if you're driving, write it down and keep it near your phone, near your computer. What am I talking about here? I'm talking about a very simple piece. Rinse and repeat. I have to be able to frequently reach out to you That's the rinse and repeat. But it's not with the same message. I never repeat the same message twice. One of the biggest issues people have in prospecting is they will send an email out and then they'll sit there and say, "Oh, I wanted to resend this to you to bounce it to the top of your email list." Or, "Hey, you may not have seen this. I want to follow up with you." Hey, here's the whole deal. You have to assume that you sent the email. "Oh, but I can tell they didn't open it." Then you know what? It sucks. Okay. I'm being blunt. It sucks. Sure. You can tell whether or not, they open. There's plenty of tools out there that help us understand that. But here's the premise. I don't care if they did or did not. What you sent wasn't worthwhile because there was no reason for them to open it, which means probably your subject line stunk. When it comes to prospecting, the subject line and the first 6 words of your prospecting email are absolutely the most important thing. Don't sit there and waste it by saying, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. I'd like to introduce myself." Don't waste it. The subject line has to be focused on them, even if they've talked to you once or two. They may have talked to you a couple times. Don't sit there and play games with them. Catch them with a question, catch them with a comment, catch them with something that is relevant to their industry and to them. And those first 6 words. Now, why do I say the first 6 words? Because I don't care, regardless of working from home or working in an office, the emails are viewed from a smartphone. And what shows up? Part of the subject line and maybe the first 6, 8 words of email. And from that, people are making a decision as to whether or not they want to open it. It's that simple. And what does that mean? Simple. Keep it simple. Don't send out complex emails, because here's the whole thing. I may have an email that you send me and, oh, I like it. It's got a subject line relevant to me. And, we've had a conversation, and I'll share with you the most powerful one you can send here in just a minute. And you may sit there and have great 6 words. They open up the email, but then here's the whole thing. The email goes on forever. Prospecting emails should be what I call one swipe emails. One swipe, even in the follow-up phase, one swipe. Until I get far enough along that you're a qualified prospect, I'm not going to send out long emails, because if that email can't be read in one swipe, what does one swipe mean? It means I pull my phone and I only have to swipe my phone once to read the entire email. If it's longer than that, you know what? The dog don't hunt. Chances are the person's going to delete it. I do that all the time. Here's where I'm going with this. My follow-up correspondence, and right now I'm accenting email, but it isn't centered around email. It's centered around the telephone first. And email is the follow-up. But what it is centered around is the fact that I'm not playing games. Now, what am I doing here in terms of this follow-up to try to get you engaged? First of all, I've got to know my talking points. I've got to know my talking points. And you know what? My talking points are questions. Now, here's the magical follow-up. We'll say that you've had one conversation with a person. That's it. One conversation. That's it. What you want to do is you want to sit there and put in that email subject line your comments from last week, or put in a few words of what they exactly shared with you. And your follow-up question, the start of the email, is that when we talked last, you mentioned X, and you quote them word for word in that first sentence of the email. Now, again, they're going to have to open it and see it, but hey, I'd love to get some more perspective around that. Can you share with me another example? Can you help me share? It's then asking them a question that builds on that. Now, here's what you're doing. You're doing 3 things. 1, you're playing back to them exactly what they shared with you, which says, wow, that salesperson actually listened. That in and of itself is a rarity. 2, you're now asking them for their opinion. The word opinion in an email is absolute gold. Because now what does it mean? You actually want to hear from them, not the company line, them. If you ask people's opinion, I guarantee it, your open and response rate will increase by at least 10 points, period, when you're doing the follow-up process. Here's what it's all about: engaging them with their questions, their comments. The third piece of, because I said there was three things that would be of value. First one is that they understand that you listen. Second is that they actually get to share their opinion. And the third one is you learn insights that you never got before. Play back to them exactly what they shared with you. That's one of the most successful ways. This is why I accent. This is why I place such a strong focus around the telephone. Now, when I'm doing follow-up to try to get you engaged, I'm using multiple communication methods. I'm using the telephone, I'm using email, I'm using text, I'm using social media, I'm using whatever it might be, depending on the industry, the person I'm reaching out to. Absolutely, which one works is again going to vary. The email may include a video. Again, depending on the industry, depending on the age of person I'm reaching out to, video can be absolutely gold. So I'm doing different things depending on the audience, but I'm using multiple communication methods. Now, here's a couple things, okay? What I want to make sure I do is that I have got multiple contacts. This is one of the big mistakes people make. I was talking to somebody the other day, major corporation. If I said the name, you would know it. He had one contact there. Oh, they've gone radio silent on me. Well, why in the world are you reaching out to one contact? I was talking to another lady who had put in a major bid. And then procurement department said, no questions, don't respond, we'll tell you if you win the bid. And I said, what are you doing? Well, they said not to call back. I said, hold it. How many contacts do you have? I have about 25 contacts. Why aren't you reaching out to them? She literally set herself up for radio silence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use multiple contacts. And multiple contacts can be within the company. Multiple contacts might be in the industry, associations that they belong to, peers, whatever. Because here's what I found. I can oftentimes have conversations with other people who know the person I'm trying to reach. And then guess what? Suddenly they have a conversation with them, and then I'm back in the game. Don't rule out using people outside of their company. That's why I say industry, association, peers. Because also, you may participate in an association blog or you chime in on something, and then they see your comment in there. And you go, oh, suddenly you're no longer viewed as a vendor. You're viewed as a peer. Boom, you're in. And they begin to respond to you. But the key is to have multiple contacts and be using multiple methods. Now, time's moving along here, and I want to talk about just that, time. See, time works for and against you when you're trying to overcome radio silence. It works for you in that once you have a conversation, once a conversation's been had, you have to move fast. And again, you got to go back to those 4 questions I asked at the beginning. 4 questions at the beginning. You've got to get answers to those 4 questions. And along the way, you're building trust. But you got to move fast. So you may pop emails, you may pop phone calls to them literally every day, because you got some new insights. I know some people who are chasing $1 million deals, and they're reaching out to people because it's such a key critical part. There's urgency on the customer. See, the more you understand the urgency, this is why it's so key. The more you understand their urgency to close the deal, the more frequent you can be reaching out to them. See how this works? The more you understand that you're dealing with the right person, the more I can be reaching out to them because I'm helping them to understand the outcome that they're looking for. See, those 4 questions really tie back in together, and they help you overcome radio silence. Now, I said time works for you in terms of if you've had a conversation, but time can work against you if you haven't had a conversation. But this is where I say be patient, but stay in the game. Stay in the game. Remember the example I shared with you with the premium vendor who was reaching out to me every 2 weeks? Yeah, he was reaching out to me every 2 weeks, just kept sharing me. But he stayed in the game, and he got the deal. He got the deal. That's absolutely huge. Yes. So how much should I follow up? I should be following up as often as I have new insights. And that's going to vary upon who I'm reaching out to and what you have to offer. What do I mean by this? If I'm reaching out to a CEO of a large company, I'm not going to reach out to them daily. No, unless their building's on fire. But if I'm reaching out to a lower level person who makes this decision, this purchase regularly, I may be reaching out to them every other day. I used to do a lot of work in the transportation arena and in labor. And there are HR people who are hiring short-term labor people every day. They've got to staff up. I said, you can call those people every day. Truckers, shipping companies looking to ship stuff. They need trucks. You can reach out to those people every day. But at CEO, I might be reaching out to every other week at the most. But I'm always going to be going through and doing this strategy, phone, email, within about a 3-hour window. Now, remember I said earlier, your emails need to be short. Same thing with your voicemails. Now, remember, you call people, chances are it's going to go to their voicemail. You're right. But you know what's very interesting? Many times those voicemails wind up rolling over into a text message. A good prospecting voicemail is really only about 12, 14 seconds. Ross, I've got new insights regarding the regulatory changes taking place the first of the year. Call me. I'm Mark Hunter. Boom. And I leave my number. That's it. See, I didn't leave them enough information to make a decision. All I did was leave them enough information to show them, I may have something. Now, am I expecting them to call me back? Chances are not. But here's the whole thing. If I leave you 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 messages, and they're all different and they're all short, you're going to begin to get the drift that I respect your time. Because I'm not sitting there sending you, I'm not leaving you voicemails that drone on for 30, 40 seconds at a time. No, it's short. Same thing with my emails. My emails are very short. And I don't have time to go into this in this podcast. You can go out to the Sales Hunter University. I've got an email prospecting course. You can grab that. But the idea is I keep it short. I keep it tight. And again, because it follows the one swipe rule. See, here's the thing. When people go radio silent, it's on you to control the process and to drive enough value. Because if you don't, then guess what? You are in a lazy river and the customer is controlling the pace with which you move. Hey, I enjoy sharing with you. This was kind of a special podcast. If you've subscribed to the show, and I do hope you subscribe to the Sales Hunter podcast. Normally, I have a guest on the show, but about every 5-6 weeks, I kind of do one of these solo shows just to share with you some ideas. But I do hope that you subscribe to the podcast. I hope that you, leave a review on the podcast. Check out all the other content because the Sales Hunter University is where all my content comes from. And again, my name is Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. It is a privilege and an honor to share with you on this podcast. No after the show today, because normally, I have an after the show where I just talk to the guests, but I'd be just talking to myself, which is what I've been doing. So I want to say this. Hey, today and every day, you have the privilege to influence and impact people. That's what sales is all about. Influence and impacting people. To me, that makes getting up every morning an absolute kick in the pants. And that's why I thoroughly enjoy sales, because I get to help others see and achieve what they didn't think was possible. Thanks for listening. I'm Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter, and we'll see you next week.